Okay, good morning everyone, and Hazak Baruch. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Wednesday morning as we are studying together Perashat Pinhas, or Pinhas, however you pronounce it. My friends, our Perashah, let's jump fast forward to chapter 27. We have over here, after all of the Jewish people are counted, and why are they counted? They are counted, Rashi says, because Moshe's term is about to end, and they're about to enter the state of the land of Israel. And so, just like when somebody is voted and elected in the beginning, we want to see how things are in the economy, and when he leaves, we look at the economy and the state of affairs, etc. So too Moshe, when he was in the beginning of his career, we count the Jewish people, and at the end of his career, we're counting the Jewish people. And this is the end of the career. Moshe's I guess if you will say, his term is coming to an end, and the Jewish people are in year number 40. They're about to enter the land of Israel. It's the end of the book of Numbers. That's it. We finished all the stories pretty much, and the rest of Devarim is Moshe really in the last month of his life repeating the whole Torah to the Jewish people. So we're really over here at the end of Moshe's life. And the Pasuk tells us, chapter 27, Vatikravna benot Tzelofhad. We have another story for you. Just in case you were nervous, there's no more stories. Don't worry, there's one more. Vatikravna benot Tzelofhad. The daughters of Tzelofhad. Who's that? Says the Pasuk, Ben Hefer, Ben Gilad, Ben Machir, Ben Menashe. So what is this? Menashe's great-great-grandson? Okay, Tzelofhad, Hefer, Gilad, Machir, Menashe. Menashe is Yosef's son. So we're talking about 6 generations from Yosef. And what do they want? And these are the names, by the way, okay? Mahlan, Noah, Hagla, Milka, Tirza. Okay, if anyone is happy to memorize them, there you go. Mahla, Noah, Hagla, Milka, Tirza. Vata'amodna lifnei Moshe. They come and stand in front of Moshe. And lifnei Elazar. Elazar is now the leader because Aharon's dead. So he's the Kohen Gadol. Velifnei HaNesi'im, in front of the priests and all the Edah. Petach Ochel Moed, in front of the tent of meeting. And what do these women want? They don't want equal rights. Here's what they want. You ready? Avinu met bamidbar. They say, our father died in the desert. He wasn't, by the way, part of the people that protested with Korah. Ki behet omet, he died of his own sin. Ubanim lo hayulo, he never had any boys, our father. Okay, so he clearly wasn't Syrian, okay, because Syrians, they wouldn't allow such a guy, right? Okay. Lamma yigarashem avinu, and he says, why should our father's name be diminished? Metoch mishpachato, from his family. Ki en lo ben, just because he has no boys. Tena lanu ahuzah, give us whatever our brothers were supposed to inherit if he did have boys. Let us, as the girls, inherit the land. Okay? So, meaning, the girls were wondering, how does inheritance work? If there's no boys, could we inherit our father? This was the question, and it's a legal question, a very fair question, nothing wrong with the question. Vayakrev Moshe et mishpatan lifnei Adonai. Moshe says, good question, let me ask God. Sometimes, believe it or not, the rabbi has to ask. Sometimes people ask me questions and I don't know. And of course, what do I tell them? It's a long answer. I can't tell you now. No, I'm kidding. I tell them I don't know sometimes, right? Okay. Vayomer Hashem el Moshe lemor. So God now says, Ken benot Tzelofhad berot. They're speaking correctly. Naton titen lahem ahuzat nahalav tochai avihem. They do inherit instead of their brothers. And therefore, the father dies, let his property be inherited into his daughters. And tell the Jewish people that if a man dies and he has no boys, then the inheritance goes to the girls. And if there's no girls, then it goes to his brothers. And if he doesn't have brothers, then it goes to his uncles. And if he doesn't have uncles, then you go to the closest family member. Okay, these are the laws of inheritance. And it's actually interesting because even today, these laws do apply. And if a person wants to inherit their money to their children after they move on, then there's actually halachot of how to do it. One has to be careful to make sure to, when you're speaking to your lawyers, to make sure that the will is structured in a way that's not contradicting the halacha. So as an example, if sometimes a person wants to give all his children equally, but he has a bechor, usually we know the bechor receives double, etc. So again, speak to your rabbi and your Jewish lawyer how to go about doing this. This is not a new thing. This is something that lawyers already know how to do, how to deal with. It's a known thing already. Okay, so our story here deals with the daughters of. This is the first time this happened. A man didn't have boys, and the daughters want to inherit. And what's the answer? The answer is yes. The girls could inherit if there are no boys. Now, there are some questions that need to be asked over here. First of all, the pasuk says that they come and they stand in front of Moshe and Elazar, and they say, when they present their case, our father died, and they give another detail. What is the other detail? Vehu lo haya betoch ha'edah. He wasn't part of the assembly of Korah that rebelled against Moshe. He died from his own sin. Okay, which sin? Some say he was the Mikoshesh Etzim, he was the guy that gathered wood on Shabbat. Some say he was of the people that tried to go to the land of Israel prematurely. Remember when the spies came back and they gave a negative report, and then you had some people that wanted to go and climb to the land of Israel. So anyways, this man died, but he wasn't part of Korah's crew. And they specify that. And the question that's asked is, why does that matter? Why does that change the case? It's enough to just say our father's dead. Does it matter how he died? Does it matter why he died? Right? The answer that's given is actually a interesting halachic answer. When someone is sentenced to death, it depends. There are ramifications of why he is sentenced to death. As an example, we know someone could be sentenced to death for mored b'malchut, rebelling against the king, treason. And the Rambam writes that if someone is executed for treason, actually the government, the king, inherits his property. If he's executed for his own crime, for any other law that he violates, then the assets remain within the family. And so come along the daughters, and they were very smart. They were very wise, and they said intentionally, our father didn't die because of Korach. Because if he was part of Korach, then right away what happens? Because he's guilty of mored b'malchut, he's going against the king, Moshe's a king. So then the whole case is irrelevant, because automatically the property now becomes the government's. The property becomes Moshe's. So they had to specify he wasn't part of Korah. So now the property stays in the family, and now we just want to know if we could go next in line if there are no sons. This actually answers, by the way, another very interesting question. What is the next pasuk? The next pasuk says, "Vayakrev Moshe et mishpatan lifnei Adonai." Moshe now brings their case in front of God. Why does Moshe have to bring their case in front of God? Why didn't he know? This is not the first time someone asked Moshe a question. Throughout 40 years, they're asking him questions daily. But this is one of the rare cases, my friends, pay attention. This is one of the rare cases where nit'alema mimenu halacha. The halacha was hidden from him or lost from him. Moshe over here forgot the law. God gave him all to him at Har Sinai, but he forgot it. He forgot the detail over here. Now, when Moshe forgets halacha, we have to ask why. Forgetting halacha is not just an accident. Rashi says, Nifra, he was actually getting punished. Al Shinatal Atara, because he got a little bit too, I don't know if the word is arrogant, but maybe Moshe got a little bit too carried away. When the Jewish people came to him in the first year in the desert, and they set up courts. Remember they set up a court system? Because Moshe was standing all day long, and he's judging all the people, and it was getting very, very difficult. And his father-in-law, like any good father-in-law, comes and gives him some advice on how to judge the people. And he says, listen, Moshe, you can't stand by yourself all day long. It's going to get too difficult. So Moshe says, well, what do you recommend? And he's Yitro says, well, I think you should have a system of judges. You should have heads of 10s, heads of 50s, heads of... You shouldn't judge every case. The Supreme Court doesn't judge every case. You have local courts. You have small ones. When you get a ticket, you don't go in front of the Supreme Court of New York. It's a small ticket. If you want to fight it, you go in front of... I remember the first time I walked into a courtroom. Okay? It wasn't a room. I thought I was fighting a ticket. I'm going to be in front of a judge and a jury, and I'm going to be on the next case of, Judge Judy. I don't know what I was going to be on. I got very nervous. I didn't know how these things work. And I walk into it was a little cubicle. And this lady sitting by a computer, and I'm like, okay, I'm here for the judge. She's like, yeah, I'm the judge. I'm like, you're the judge? I was like sweating. I was doing, vidui. I was doing, Yosef Beseter. I was saying Tehillim. And I walk in, I don't know, this lady, she didn't look like a judge to me. You know what I mean? So not all the courts are the same. So you don't have every Joe Schmo that has a dispute go in front of a Supreme Court. And Yitro says to Moshe, you shouldn't be judging every case. You're gonna get worn out. So you're gonna get burnt out. So he creates a system. And Moshe does the system. And he says one dangerous line. He says, the hardest thing that you don't know how to answer, bring to me. And a little bit, maybe there was arrogance there, I don't know. But bring to me? Bring to me? You think you know everything, Moshe? Okay, go ahead. Let's see if you know everything. And so Moshe over here, he forgot the halacha. Okay? Why did he forget this specific halacha? Okay, it's a good question. It's a long answer. Not for now. But I don't know. I don't know the answer. It's a good question. I don't know why this specific halacha. Why is that the reason? How does that crime connect to this? But that's one answer that's given. Now it's interesting, by the way. It's interesting that Moshe forgets a halacha. What is the connection that because you were arrogant, you forget a law? Like, if I were to ask you, what should be Moshe's punishment for taking a little bit of the crown for himself too much? Okay, so, we're going to give him a punishment, right? But why? That he should forget things? The answer, my friends, is based on a very powerful Gemara in Masechet Megillah. The Gemara says, Im yomar lecha adam, if someone will come and tell you, Yagati velo matzati. If someone comes and says, I work so hard and I don't see results. You know what the answer is? Says the Gemara, don't believe him. It's impossible. If you work hard, you're going to get results. Lo yagati, if yagati lo matzati, can't be. And the other way around also. Lo yagati v'matzati. If it didn't work hard and I see fruits, I see results, al ta'ami, don't believe him. Can't be. If someone says yagati v'matzati, ta'ami. Someone says I work hard and I'm successful, then you believe him. And says the Gemara, hani mili b'divrei Torah. And by the way, all of this that we said is only a rule when it comes to Torah. The Torah, if a person says, Rabbi, I try to learn, but it's just not for me. Learning is not for me. So we ask them, well, how hard are you trying? When it comes to Torah, it comes down to effort. It's not going to come free. It's not going to come easy. If you don't work hard, you're not going to get it. And if you work hard, you will get it. It can't be one without the other. But the Gemara then has one more line. You ready? Gemara says, "V'ledivrei Torah lo amran ela lehadudei." Even when it comes to learning, that's only true when it comes to understanding. Aval leukume girsa. If it comes to remembrance, to memory, you could try all day. Memory is a gift from Hashem. Meaning, some people have a better memory than other people. So it could be one guy works very, very quickly, and he'll memorize it forever, and the other guy studies it 50 times, and he still can't remember it the next day. That's possible. And that's why when it comes to remembering Torah, a person has to pray to Hashem for help. Because memory is in Hashem's hands. The understanding, that's in your hands. Don't pray for that. Whether or not you understand comes down to you. Are you willing to put in the time and the effort? But the remembering of Torah, Acham Ovadia had photographic memory. Photographic memory. A guy once came to him and he asked him, Rabbi, they say that all the Torah that you know, and it's amazing what he was able to do. He once had a journalist come to his house, true story, and he asked him, Rabbi, they say that you have a good memory. Could I test you? Hacham says, I guess. He says, I went to the furthest corner, I picked up the dustiest book, and I opened to the most random page, and I started reading from the book. Hacham after one sentence, stopped me. He says he told him what book he was reading, he told him what page he was up to, and he finished the rest of the paragraph for him. This was a true story that a secular journalist wrote. On Friday, he used to have a question answer session live on the radio. Hotline, people would call and ask questions on Shabbat, Friday afternoon, Erev Shabbat. Any question, Shabbat question, kosher question, meat and dairy, whatever question you had. And he had no books. The questions were really, this was a real reality show. It wasn't a prepared fake reality show. It was a real, hotline. And the questions were completely random, real people. And every single question he answered off the top of his head, no books, no sources. Answering every question with dozens of sources to the page. And they recorded all of these Friday conversations, and they ended up writing books that he just from an answer that he gave verbally, and he was always on the money, correct, 100%. They ended up writing books of responses from these conversations that he had, from these questions that he was answering live on a phone call. Off the cuff, no, unprepared. Can you imagine? The guy asked him, Rabbi, is it true you have photographic memory? Hacham says it's true, but you should know that even if I didn't, I would know what I know today, because how many times I studied everything. That's what he said. So really, when it comes to memory is a barakah. Memory is a barakah. And the Gemara here is telling us that the memory of Moshe to remember each and every law is a gift from Hashem. And therefore, because Moshe a little bit showed arrogance on this halacha, when they said, what do we do if we don't know the answer? So he lost this gift of remembering to a certain degree. Again, why this specific law, we have to figure out. But that is one answer to the question. But my friends, there is another beautiful answer to the question of why Moshe went to Hashem. Again, why did he go to God? Rashi says because he forgot the law. The Meshech Chochmah says something so powerful. We often speak about the idea of being biased. A lot of times in life, people come and ask us questions, or we're biased to a certain position, whether it's in politics, or whether it's in family relationships, or whether it's to people. A lot of times we're biased. Sometimes we're biased in questions of halacha. You come to a rabbi, am I allowed to do X, Y, and Z on Shabbat? Now, honestly, if you're asking the question, you're biased. You're hoping the rabbi is going to say a certain answer. If you're asking the question, it means you have an interest in the answer. It means that before you even come to the rabbi, you're already hoping and leaning yourself, hoping it's going to be a yes or a no. Right? Rabbi, could I play chess on Shabbat? Now, if you don't like chess, you're not asking the rabbi that question. Obviously, why are you asking the rabbi, could you play chess? I'll tell you the truth. I don't know if you ever saw people loving now pickleball. Pickleball, yeah, people are loving that game. I don't know. There's disc golf. You ever played disc golf? In my life, I have zero temptation. I have more temptation to eat pig than I have to disc golf. I don't know. There's no appeal to me. So if a guy comes and says, Rabbi, could I play pickleball on Shabbat? Obviously, this guy wants to play pickleball. He's not asking, a guy who's 85 years old ain't asking you, hey, Rabbi, you want to play basketball on Shabbat? You know what I'm saying? The guy doesn't care. He's not playing ball anytime soon. So in life, we have to pay attention to when we're biased. And the Torah tells us, you need to know that bribery is going to cloud your judgment. Your friend comes and says to you, let me ask you a question. You tell me who's right. And they tell you, this person said this and I think that. Who do you think is right? Well, obviously, you can't be a judge. You're biased to your friend. You can't decide the case. So we have to be very careful when deciding things in life to make sure that we're not letting personal bias get in the way. The girls come here and they say, Moshe, our father wasn't from the group of Korah. Right away when Moshe hears that, he all of a sudden realizes that he is now biased. They just owned Moshe. That one sentence. Sometimes people try to buy you. People try to buy you with money. Someone sends you a little gift, right? In a meeting, it's illegal to give someone in business. Someone told me, I don't know if this is true, I think it's true. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's illegal from what I understood in business to really give people gifts, right? So, you have to be, why? Because it's a fact. The moment someone gives you a gift, come dinner on me, and they pay, so now you already can automatically bias to that person. It's going to be very hard for you to see the flaws of that person. You understand? That's why it's very important when dating, by the way, to try to date with a clear mind, not to allow hormones. That's why the Torah wants us as an example to be shomer negia before getting married. Don't touch. Why can I touch this person? I love them. Well, because by touching them, you may not know if you love them. Maybe your hormones love them, but you're not going to see them for who they really are, right? It's a known thing that, waiters, waitresses, when they're handing you the bill, they make slight contact because they know that the tip will be higher once there's some physical chemistry, even just the touch on the hand. Amazing, the psychology that goes on over here. The Torah knew this 2,000, 3,000 years ago. The Torah says, be very careful. So when a person sends you gifts, person sends you flowers, person gives you a free meal, nothing's in life is free. You have to know that nothing in life is free. People, they give you something, you have to ask yourself, why are they giving it to me for free? Out of the goodness of their heart? So Moshe here, once he's told by them, our father is from those who weren't part of Korah, now Moshe automatically is biased. Moshe automatically now is on their side. Oh, so your father was with me. Korah had a big gathering. Korah had a lot of people. And now they're saying, our father Moshe was on your side. So Moshe realizes, wow, now I'm Nogeya. In Hebrew, Nogeya means now I'm biased. I'm already no longer objective. Now I'm subjective. Now I'm going to take this case personally. I'm going to try to do whatever I can to allow you to come out the winner. So Moshe knew he couldn't judge the case anymore. Therefore, he says, let me ask God. Even though it's amazing, because Moshe over here, there's no room for bias, because the halakha is the halakha. They're going to ask you and you're going to repeat to them, copy and paste what God told you in Har Sinai 40 years ago. But still, Moshe was worried, maybe because of that one compliment that they gave me, that their father wasn't with Korah. Their father was on my side. So now I'm already going to not see things clearly. It's very important to always have that outside opinion that we can ask our questions to, especially when it comes to important decisions. We can't always rely on ourselves. Oh yeah, I think I could do this, there's nothing wrong, I can handle the situation, I'm fine, I'll be good. Maybe, but maybe not. Many people think they're good. No one thinks they're biased, by the way. Speak to people, no one says, yeah, I'm completely biased. No one thinks that. All the journalists that are supposed to be quote unquote objective, giving you objective news, everyone is biased. It's a fact, no such thing. So Moshe here is aware of the fact that he's now already leaning to one side and he no longer is able to judge the case. He gives it up. Gemara is filled with stories of rabbis who who would step away from the case once they realized that they were somewhat related or they knew the person. So as an example, one time the rabbi, it was a judge, he had a certain sharecropper who he had a deal, a partnership. The sharecropper would work the land and they would split the fruits. And he would bring the fruits every Friday. Erev Shabbat, his share. You bring the rabbi his share on Friday. And one day the sharecropper comes in on Thursday. And he brings the fruits with him on Thursday, a day early. And as he comes in for the court case, he hands the rabbi the fruits on Thursday instead of Friday. And the rabbi, once he gets the fruits, he says, "Oh, you just invalidated me from being the judge of your case. I have to resign from judging this. I step out. I have to bring in another judge." He says, "Why?" He says, "Because you brought me the fruits one day early." One day early is already enough to slightly alter. You know, when people they say don't drink and drive. You don't have to be wasted and gone and smashed to smash your car. You don't have to be crazy drunk to get into an accident. A slight delay is enough to cost you your life. A tiny delay in driving is enough to cost people their lives. People that get into accidents from texting, 99% of the time they're looking on the road. It comes from that one split second that they look down and one tiny mistake in judgment. So Moshe knows no matter how small this compliment is, but it's a compliment. And by the way, people that are smart know how to use these things to their advantage. You know, anyone in a relationship, in a business, knows that you want to win friends, right? You don't have to be Dale Carnegie to know that if you want people to like you, you got to compliment. That's the rule. You give someone one nice compliment, now the person already likes you. One compliment. So Moshe here is getting a compliment, and now he realizes I can't judge the case anymore, and therefore he defers to Hashem. One final thought over here on this episode of the girls trying to inherit their father's piece of land. The rabbis tell us a very interesting Midrash. He says, the Midrash tells us in the Yalkut Shimoni, Kol Adam Kasher, anytime there's a righteous person, She'amed betoch dor rasha, who stands up in the period, in a generation of wicked people, right? You look at the contrast. One righteous person in a generation of wicked people, Zacha litol schar kulan. You merit to receive the reward of all of them. You know, a lot of times we speak about the importance of surrounding ourselves with positive influence, right? Making sure, be careful who your friends are. But a lot of times we don't get to always choose where we're raised, the type of generation that we're raised in. Look at the generation that we're in. Crazy. Forget the last 20 years. The last 3 years. Look how much changed in 3 years, 4 years. Look how much changed in the whole world in 4 years. I remember 10 years ago it was a different world. It's crazy what's going on. And we feel sometimes in such a wicked generation like we're at a disadvantage. Where's all the Rav Akiva Egers and the tzaddikim of yesteryear? I wish I was in a generation like that. And it's true. It's easier when you're in a generation like that. But you should also know there's a tremendous advantage in being in a generation like this. Because if one is able to rise and go against the tide, then opposite. Litol schar kulan. We're able to take and being contrasted to the darkness of our age and day and age, we're able to take the reward of everyone around us. Look at Noah, the Midrash says. Noah wasn't such a great guy. I mean, he was an amazing guy. I shouldn't say that. He was an amazing guy. But our rabbis say he was an amazing guy, relatively speaking. When you put him next to the wicked people, he's an amazing guy. But you put him next to Avraham Avinu, he's an average Joe. He's a regular guy. You put him next to tzaddikim, he's regular. When you compare him, you know, a lot of times you see these optical illusions. You ever saw the optical illusion? I love optical illusions. So there's one where they show you like a black side and a white side, and these two gray boxes. And they ask you which gray box is darker. You ever saw that one? And everyone guesses that one. And then they remove the black and white background, and they bring the two the gray boxes near each other, and then you actually realize that it's the same shade of gray. Same shade of gray. Okay? No different shades of gray. No 50, no 2. Same shade of gray. But when it's in a background of black or white, it looks different. And that's true not only with gray, it's true with people. You take a person like Noach, you put him in a generation of Mabul, of horrible, wicked immorality, he stands out. He is like a huge tzaddik. You know, if you have a very weak flashlight in broad daylight, ain't gonna be recognizable. You go to a pitch black room, as weak as the flashlight is, it makes a difference. And it's rewarded. It shows, it gives light. And it's true with people. The generation that we are part of actually can help us, and the actions that we have can make us and rise us to look like better than we actually are. Compared to the generation that we're in, it's all relative. The Midrash gives another example. Avraham, compared to all the people of the Palaga, he is amazing. Lot, he's compared to the people of Sodom, and he gets all of their reward. And finally, the daughters of Tzelofchad, in a generation that didn't want to go to Israel, and now they are put on a pedestal. They are put on a high pillar, shown to the world. Look at these girls. Look how much they loved the land of Israel. You know, it's very interesting that this episode is recorded in the Torah. I'm sure there were dozens of questions of people that came to ask Moshe questions. There were dozens of cases, I can guarantee you. Thousands, hundreds of thousands. Every day, people are coming. You don't have the Torah filled with cases. This is one of millions of cases, maybe. Do you have any other cases recorded? One time, Yosef came with David to court, to Moshe, and they said, Moshe, he's taking too much of my desert parking space. His tent was looking at my tent. He had to turn his opening of his tent the other way, facing west. He was blocking my sun. His tent's too high. Zoning laws. No one, right? None of those cases, I'm sure there were maybe, but they're not recorded. What's this case doing recorded here? If I was God, I just write. If a man doesn't have boys, then it goes to his daughters. No, we tell you the case, and the daughters came. It says the Midrash, because they are receiving reward here. They are getting special honorable mention. Because compared to the generation that didn't want to go to the land of Israel, and they are dying for a peace in the land of Israel. And therefore their actions are that much heavier. Their reward is going to be written explicitly for everyone to see. So we have to know, my friends, that sometimes again we feel like we're behind the eight ball, in such a low generation, such a degenerate generation, a time where there's just craziness going on. And it's true, it is maybe in a way harder, but it also reminds us that therefore any small act that we do, going against the tide, and that's what we have to do as Jews, by the way, we have to go against the tide. We always went against the tide. Matter of fact, we know that the Torah, just a couple of Perashiot ago, had these two backwards letter nuns. You remember this? In Perashat Beha'alotecha, two big black nuns in the Torah. If you look in the Torah, it's just black and big nun, written in ink, backwards. Just like parentheses around two verses. And it's not read. You don't read the nun. No, you don't read it. You ignore the nun and you read the two psukim. Why are the nuns there? So our rabbis have many ideas on this. But the nun, what does nun mean? Anyone know? Nun actually means something. Nun means fish. And the backwards nun represents the fish that in life know how to swim upstream and backwards. And part of succeeding in life is knowing how to go against the tide. Not to conform. You can't just go with the flow. The fish that go with the flow don't survive. In life, we have to be nonconformists. We have to be able to have a spine to stand up against what the world says. And when we do, we're compared to the world, and we are as low as we may be. But compared to everyone, we're amazing. You know, there's a story in the Navi of actually the opposite. Elisha Navi, I believe it's with him. Elisha Navi went to visit one time a lady, and he stayed in her town. He stayed in the attic. She gave him a place to stay, and finally, she's blessed with a child. He blesses her with a child, but then the child dies, and she goes to the Navi and she says, "You know, you hurt me." She complains to the Navi, "What do you come and you now got to make me lose my child?" And Elisha's like, "Listen, I'm sorry. Let me go see him. Maybe I could bring him back to life." And he does. He goes. He brings him back to life. An amazing story brought down in the Navi. Okay, in Melachim. And the commentaries wonder, what does she want from Elisha? What did he do wrong? He blessed you to have a child, and you had a child. Now your child died. Why is it his fault? What did the Navi do wrong? The answer is, well, part of her argument was, by you living next to me, now in Shamayim every year on Rosh Hashanah, they're going to judge me now compared to you. Till now, I was a good girl. I was keeping kosher-ish. I was Jew-ish, right? Keeping Shabbat-ish, whatever I was doing, and it was fine for my level. But now I'm living next to a tzaddik. Now compared to you, I'm pale. I'm zero. And maybe they judged me in a negative light compared to the surroundings. So that is how it can work against us. But again, I don't think today we have that issue. I think today we have the other way, where we're very lucky that any small act of kindness, any bracha today, I'll end with a beautiful, beautiful mashal. Take this mashal, my friends, and save it. You could write it down, you could blow it up, you could put it on your wall, whatever you want to do. But this mashal is so powerful. Hacham Ovadia brings this one in the name of the Arizal. And he says about a parable about, there was once a queen, that anytime somebody in the land needed a favor, if they needed to get certain, taxes waived, if they needed, rights or something to get expedited with building or whatever it was, they knew you go to the queen, you bribe her, you give her some nice linens, expensive materials, silks, you give her a piece of jewelry that's very rare. Obviously, to bribe the queen, it's got to be you can't give her like a 2-carat diamond, you know what I mean? You're bribing the queen, it's got to be impressive. But it was worth it. You bribe the queen, and then she goes in, she talks to her husband, she puts in a good word. Listen, honey, that guy, give him a break on his taxes, whatever it was. Well, the day came, there were accusations against the queen, and there were rumors that she was unloyal, and the king was furious, and he throws her straight down into the dungeon with no hearing, from riches to rags, overnight. And this queen who was on the top of the world is now sitting there in the dungeon with nobody there, with the lowest of the low, with none of her clothing, none of her jewelry, barely any food. And this one man had pity on her. He believed that she was innocent. He thought they were really just rumors, nothing more. And so every day he would sneak down into the dungeon, and in between the bars he would throw in a little piece of sugar, a tiny piece of extra, pastry, just to give her a little bit of life, just to raise her energy. And every day just a little sugar, a little piece of bread. And the story continues that as the days went on, the accusations were found to be false. And the king comes down and he picks the queen out of the dungeon and he apologizes and he executes the people that were behind the ruse, and she's back on her throne. What do you think is the first thing that she did when she became a queen again? She found this man and she raised him to be top in the country. She gave him the highest position, highest honor, huge house, money, whatever you wanted. And all of the other fellows of the land are very curious. They said, we don't understand. We used to have to bribe you with millions of dollars. with diamonds and silks. This guy gave you 5 pennies, a piece of bread, a piece of sugar. And look what you did to him. And the queen looked at them and she said, it's true. But he gave me a piece of bread when I was in the dungeon, when I was in the lowest of the lows. A piece of bread there means even more to me than a diamond when I'm up here. So says the Ariel, and he's talking 500 years ago. Imagine what he would say today. But for his time even, he said, our generation, the Shekhinah, Hashem, so to speak, is in the dungeon. Who knows about God? Who cares about God? They're trying to erase his name from the dollar bill. They're trying to get rid of Hashem from every corner of the world. You're not allowed to teach religion. You're not allowed to talk about God. What God? Who's God? Hashem today, the values of the Torah, they're down, they're in the drain. They're in the dungeon. Hashem today is in Galut. There used to be a time where God was popular. He was trending. He was on the throne. Everybody in the world came to the temple to give King Solomon gifts. And they recognized the Jews as the chosen. Today, Hashem's not popular. Today, Hashem's in the dungeon. But you know what says the Arizal? When the queen's in the dungeon, the smallest gift makes her smile. Today, you don't have to write Sfarim. You don't have to write crazy books. You don't have to do crazy things to get on God's good side. Used to be, you had to finish Shas, and you had to learn Torah all day, and who knows what you had to do once upon a time. Today, we're very lucky. Today, we can get away with murder. Today, a little bracha, and Hashem says, ooh, wow, let me give you a kiss, let me shower you, what do you need? Money. What did I do? I said a little shehakol. Hacham of Rabbi Kiva Eger, Rav Avadia Yosef, they're looking down, they're like, God, you know what I had to do to get a little money? You know how many books I had to write? How they're saying a little shehakol? Like a little baby. You know, my little baby girl, she one little smile. And I realized that she made it in her diaper. That's why she's smiling. But it doesn't matter. One little smile, and I laugh, and I pick her up. My older son, he needs to do a little bit more than smile. He smiles at me. What are you smiling at me for? Wipe that smile off your face, young man. How dare you smile at me? You talk to me with respect. You know what I mean? So my son has to do a lot more to get me impressed. So today, the generation is we're babies. Today, we could do very little. A little smile at Hashem, and you make Hashem so happy. Smallest tzedakah. A little learning. A little bit of Torah. A little bit of prayer. A little bit more kosher. Just a little bit more. If we're a little bit more Shabbat than we used to be. We used to be at to make sure you wouldn't walk on the grass so that by mistake you don't rip the grass with your feet. Hashem will he'll take what he could get, as we say. You know, in life sometimes, you say to a guy, hey, what are you doing with that girl? Or the other way around, what are you doing with that guy? He's so much better than that. No, I'll take what I could get. You know what I mean? I'm settling. Today, Hashem is settling, believe it or not. In law, you have a settlement. Okay, I'll take what I could get. Count my losses. You file for Chapter 11. You take 20 cents on the dollar. Take what I could get. Count my losses. Hashem today takes what he can get. This is all there is. God, this is all there is. You want the alternative is the rest of the world. Look at what there is out there. So Hashem today sees a tiny extra effort of dressing a little bit more modest, of talking a little bit more modest, of acting a little bit more modest, of doing a little bit more Jewish, a little bit more prayer, a little bit more tiny drop. That little bit, it's like a flashlight in pitch black. You don't need a huge sun. Today we don't have to be huge suns. Today a little flashlight, it'll do. It'll do, it gets the job done in the dark. So that's the generation that we're in. Again, it comes with its challenges, but it's also a tremendous opportunity to be able to step up and to be like Noach, to be like Avraham, to be like Lot. Sometimes you don't have to be so great. You just have to be a little bit better. I remember when I remember reading a joke one time. There's these two friends in the forest, and they see all of a sudden in the distance, 100 feet away, they see a lion. And the lion slowly starts inching up towards them. And one of the friends whispers quietly, he bends down, he opens up his knapsack, he pulls out his sneakers, he takes off his hiking shoes, and he slowly starts putting on his sneakers. And his friend looks at him and he goes, "You idiot. You think with sneakers you're gonna outrun the lion?" And he looks up, he's like, "Dude, I don't gotta outrun the lion. I just gotta outrun you." Right? So, today we just have to outrun the world around us, that's all. And that's relatively easier today because of the generation that we are in. So, may we always be zocheh to climb, and to be a little bit better than we were yesterday. And Hashem will be so happy, so proud with the little that we do. It's enough to put a smile on Hashem's face, and He will shower us, Be'ezrat Hashem, with all the brachot. Okay, we'll stop over here, everybody. Have a wonderful, amazing day, and God willing, we'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.